Hello, everyone. I want you to think for a moment about the last time you were thirsty. Not just a little thirsty and could use something to drink, but I mean thirsty. Maybe you were outside all day, maybe you were camping, maybe you were away from a source of clean drinking water. If that's never happened to you, you're very fortunate, but it does happen to many people. And for that reason, we cannot ban plastic water bottles in this country. I have made my argument to you before about why I feel this way. Now, I'm going to respond to my opponent's argument. They listed 3 points that supported their notion that we should, in fact, ban these plastic water bottles. And I think they're very credible, very worthy points. But I will walk through each of those and highlight some problems that I see with the point. So, to begin, the first point was that plastic water bottles contain a toxin known as BPA, and that toxin leads to ill health effects, including some cancers. And this is true. This is true. All plastic bottles contain some level of BPA, and BPA is very bad for your health. Now, what my opponent did not mention, though, is that the BPA is sequestered inside the plastic, and the only way to release it is through extreme heating. Now, the story that I've heard on this on the news some time ago was that if you, for example, have a water bottle, you take it with you, and then you leave it in your car all day and go into work and come back out, you should not drink the water that's in that bottle because your car can reach temperatures in excess of 130 degrees in the summer. And that is hot enough to release some of that BPA. Now, even if you drink that water on occasion, it's probably not going to be detrimental to your health unless you make it a regular habit. And I doubt many of us are doing that. But my argument is instead of banning these bottles because of their BPA content, we should do one of two things. One, we could educate the public on this danger and make sure that we're keeping these bottles of water at a safe temperature. Or two, ban BPA and make the water bottle out of a different um, type of plastic that would be safer for us. Now, the second point my opponent makes is that these water bottles or plastic bottles in general are unnecessary. And she talked about getting a reusable plastic or metal water bottle because you can fill those up anywhere that has a sink or a water fountain. And she's exactly right again. That is a great idea. In fact, I have mine here. Now, what I want to talk about on this point is that just because something isn't needed for us who live in this convenient space, that doesn't mean that it's not a nice thing to have in cases like emergencies that I mentioned in my constructive speech. So while it is nice to have this metal Yeti water bottle that keeps things very cold, if I am going into a war torn area or a fire ravaged area, someplace where people have been displaced, they're thirsty, I can't bring metal or plastic, the hard plastic water bottles for these folks. It wouldn't be financially feasible, it would be heavy. Where the plastic water bottles can literally be dropped from airplanes with parachutes. You may have seen this on the news, and sent into these regions that need them. My opponent said that they are extremely convenient, but what is the real price? Now, understand that I am in agreement that we should not use plastic water bottles when we have an alternative. But what if there is no alternative? Making these illegal would take that out of play and in turn harm a variety of people. The third point that my esteemed colleague made was the idea that these bottles pollute things, they pollute our environment. Um, and she's right about that as well. There's a huge plastic trash, mountain basically, or really it's an island the size of Texas that floats somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Bottles are the main ingredient, bottles and plastic bags in that huge island of trash. Now, I clearly don't want that to increase, but I think there's another way to handle the problem. So, as we know, plastics are recyclable. And one thing we could do would be to make a mandate, if you will, that these bottles, plastic water bottles or plastic bottles in general, have to be recycled. That would still be changing the behavior of the public, impacting the atmosphere, the environment, but not taking away those water bottles from those who need them. In fact, we could even go as far as to say you can only purchase plastic bottles when you have certain circumstances. I'll let the legislators decide what those circumstances are, because again, I am in favor of using reusable water bottles. However, banning them just goes too far. So, my opponent made great points. I hope I have now explained to you why I disagree with those points. And thinking back on my original statement, this is a huge manufacturing industry that if we take away these plastic bottles, we're going to have a large gap in a time right now in our country that we can't have that gap in employment. We already have an unacceptable unemployment rate. And we also have seen manufacturing leaving our country. And to take this away right now would be more harm than good. So, again, think to that time that you were thirsty. Again, not something that you just could use a drink of water, but really thirsty. For many people, that's a real experience. And the only way to get them water in a feasible, practical manner is in a plastic bottle. So while it's unfortunate, it's true, and we can deal with it in other ways besides banning these bottles.